glad to have you here with us tonight. There is a beautiful full flower moon. I hope you get to see it tonight. And we will now bring out for the episode 262 your host, Mark Sweetman.
Hey, all right, here I am.
How was that?
See me? It was good, but I was supposed to stop the music. Oh, did I do it?
I asked you to turn.
I'm back to my old equipment because we're back in the LA studios, and
on the West Coast studios.
West Coast studios. I had a lot going on today. We got a lot accomplished. I'm very happy. I'm not upset that it's a bad opening at all, just because I didn't have time to do all the setups and everything.
Bad opening, thanks.
Well, my bad. Never mind. It just I am a technical dunce, and I mean, there's no reason.
Thank you. It's not my fault if it was bad.
No, it's not anybody's fault. You know whose fault? The fault is when Seth and I started doing this, he was all tech and I was all talent. And then when he left and I took over the show, I did a lot of the tech stuff, and it's just been very difficult for me.
But do you want to bring who's here? Jason?
I want you because normally what we do is we ring you out and then you read your poem. So I'd like to have you read your poem the way we always do at the beginning.
All right. I have it right here.
Since Andy isn't here, let me just. Oh, Andy's calling me right now. So
Andy's AWOL.
I'm going to take
Put me
the call
on.
from
I'll
Andy.
do the poem.
I wonder if he didn't get the link. Hold on. Hello, my friend. How are you?
This is how it goes. You are live,
What's that?
Andy.
Did I miss the show?
You are on. You can't get it. I thought I emailed you a link. Let me see. Let me check my email. Hold on.
You did.
Okay.
You did. It's in the email. It was earlier today,
yeah, Susan
though.
said I did because I'm gonna come.
Okay. Well, I'm on, and it says, and the host is supposed to take me on, and it says it's empty, or like it's already been on for an hour or something like that.
I wonder if it's the same. I don't know anything about that.
Resend him the link.
I wonder if it's the same thing that Sam had when he.
Resend him the link because it worked for me. But you did send the email much earlier today because of your flight.
Susan. All right, Susan is now the host of the show.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I can't get a word in edgewise, so that's the way it is. Okay. No. Everyone made it except Jason. I mean, Jason's here. Everyone made it except Andy. So let me send you. I'm going to create a link right now from the live broadcast that we're in.
Okay.
I'm pushing the invite button. Oh, and the bad news is nothing's happening. Oh, there it is. It's just very slow. I have a very slow invite button. Then I'm going to go to my email. I'm going to create an email. Put Andy Jensen's name in. And again, nothing's coming up. So again, I am a Luddite. I am a technical know-nothing. And so every time I do something technical, nothing happens. Well, I don't know what's going to happen. I guess I can't get it to you now.
Oh, you're in California though, right?
I'm in California. I could tell you, you know what? I could text it to you, but you always like it on email. So.
Oh yeah, try texting it to me. That'd be fine.
Let me see if I can do that. And this is all going out live. Okay, now I just have to put your name in there. As you are a recipient, congratulations. As a recipient, you are Andy Jensen, a recipient. So
yeah,
there we go. And a J-E. Come on. You know, I just hate when I type things in there and the screen just is blank. And then I go to type it in again. And then suddenly 12 characters spit out. It just infuriates me. And I had such a great day too. Everything seemed to go well for me today. Getting some things done for helping my son and setting up his household and things. And that went great. And then I have to do the office night.
I mean,
You don't have to.
we're good.
Okay. All right. There it is. Okay. There's that. So I copy that. I go to the inbox. I compose an email. And that's where it freezes.
I
All right,
resent
so I'm
it
going
to
to
you,
try it.
Andy. See if you've
Stay
got
with
it in your
buddy.
email.
Oh, Susan just resent it to you because she doesn't have the same bullshit equipment I am.
Okay.
You might get it. You might look for an email from Susan. You might get it from.
All right, I will check that right now.
I can't
Would you
even
like
see
your
myself
poem?
now. Everything's frozen. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you, Mark.
Oh, can you? Okay, if you can
Yeah.
hear me, then go because everything is frozen on my screen. Go ahead.
All right.
Go ahead and read the
Let me
poem.
read you the poem. You can keep the both of us up.
Jiggy.
All right. May 12th, 2025. Robert Prevost is from Chicago. Americans boast a Vatican win. On the second day of the conclave, Cardinal Bob was chosen. Pope Leo XIV, fluent in 5 languages too. Meanwhile, Trump posted himself as the Pope. This is true. 59 South Africans have been granted status as refugees here. Today they arrived in the U.S. They are white, let's be clear. Trump claims they are victims of racial discrimination. South Africa says there's no evidence, just Trump's imagination. Constitution prohibits accepting gifts from a foreign head of state without the consent of our Congress. Isn't that really great? Qatar wants to gift Trump a luxury jet he wants to accept. However, the law says he cannot. To think he can is inept. See the Constitution, specifically Article 1, Section 9. The president receiving a personal gift just might be a crime. And that is your poem for the week.
Awesome. I exited you from solo layout, and there should be 2 of us on the screen, but
There
my screen's
is.
frozen,
There's 2
so
of
I
us.
can't roll.
There's 2 of us on the screen, Mark.
You know.
All right, now Andy has joined us, so I'm going to hit. All right, here you go. Oh, okay. I'm going to hang up my phone too. All right, Andy and I are no longer speaking on the phone.
All right.
And I'm
Can you hear me
guessing
now?
Kool-Aid Man is Jason. There he is.
You can hear me now?
Now we've lost our host.
Yeah, we can
Oh,
hear
wow. Okay,
Let's
cool.
go on with the show.
you. Thank you for the poem, Susan.
There we go.
You're welcome. So,
Good voice.
what news story do you want to talk about? I think we kind of covered all the Vatican stuff last week, didn't we?
We did, but you do have to admit this. With the Pope coming from Chicago, if he wants to investigate the Vatican Bank, at least he's got a little backup, unlike the last time that happened.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, at least this time with the Chicago Pope, he might say something like, listen, anything happened to me, you know, there could be a problem here for the rest of you. It's up to you. You do what you have to do, you know.
He can say it in Italian, too.
That's right, you know. Because in Chicago, you know what we call 99% loyalty? We call that disloyalty. You understand?
Yeah.
Got it. You know, now the city of Chicago is called the city of Pope now. There you go, you know?
There you go, the city of Pope.
Yeah.
I heard that the Cubs tried to claim him, and he said, no, I'm a White Sox fan.
Yeah, so he's at the Guaranteed Theater, or whatever, the Guaranteed Stadium. But they're going to call it something else. I think they finally cut it down to something else, like, what is that? Guarantee or something like that? Can't remember what it was.
Well.
So what do you think about Trump trying to accept a Boeing jet from Qatar?
You got to understand, if that's that a Boeing jet? Well, hold on. Maybe I want to have J.D. Vance flying in it a couple times first, you know, just in case.
Well, yeah. Well, it's Boeing. That sounds promising.
Yeah, you know, I mean,
But I
may
must say, even if Congress allowed it to be accepted, it wouldn't belong to the man Donald Trump. It would belong to the U.S. of A.
or to,
I
to the
mean,
pres to the
imagine
office of the president. Yeah.
when France gifted us the Statue of Liberty, somebody didn't take that home and put it in their backyard. You know,
Yeah.
it belongs to the people.
You could only imagine the zoning if you tried to do that, though.
Yes.
You, we'd like to point out that Mr. Tyler, is it? Yes. While your estate is rather spacious, we must admit the 350-foot statue of the French lady with the torch doesn't really go along with the HOA regulations, and we're going to have to ask you to move that.
That's right.
Got it.
Of course, if it's Boeing, the windows and sides might pop off. Maybe it's foldable.
The policy has been that presidents are allowed. There's a certain sort of number of gifts they are allowed to accept, because there are things that they are gifted that they do get to take with them. And
Yes,
Congress gets to delineate what it is, because
it's
when the
it's
Clintons
Yeah,
left,
usually
you can't take an airplane to your house. You can't take an airplane in
no
the back of your car. You know, it's like,
an airplane's
when
law.
you work for government, there are usually limitations, like on
There
the
are.
value.
Yes.
And something of that value would definitely exceed the $75 or whatever it is
Well,
for
yeah,
federal
I
government
mean,
workers.
and you know, again, he is head of state, so they do get a little more margin to work with, so to speak. But yes, you're right. I will grant that a $400 million Boeing jet, probably a little outside of most of the normal guidelines. Well, for
Yes,
instance,
well,
we could ask Senator Bob Menendez.
it's in
How
the Constitution what to
I
do
know
in a situation like that.
it's
So
the
our
emolument.
forefathers thought of that.
Oh, sure they did. That's one of the reasons why we have as a clause in the Constitution that the president must be native born. Their concern was that a foreign-born prince, as the wording was at the time, would show up with a courtier who would start throwing money around, and he would essentially buy the presidency.
Yep.
Hence, they said, well, we can't have that. Which is why Hamilton, a man who should have been more in favor of better trade deals and gun control, could not have been president, because he was born in Barbados. Again, he didn't have to worry about it because the Aaron Burr policy kind of prevented that from happening. But yeah, it's an interesting sort of conundrum. But I mean, you tell me, is it any worse? What kind of sweetheart deals do you suppose the Bush family got from some of their dear friends, the Saudis? Or maybe even our even more dear friend Dick Cheney,
Well, I'll tell
Democrat
you,
supporter Dick Cheney.
you can answer that question by simply doing a FOIA request to the government, and you could be able to find out.
I'd be willing to bet that
easily
that the tchotchkes they were able to pocket would probably look rather princely compared to, the usual sort of things. Well, to decorate my home, like the velvet paint by the number dogs playing poker, the velvet paint by the numbers Elvis, or the velvet paint by the numbers Ron Jeremy. All of them represent sort of the highest end of my art collection. So yeah, I will grant you that, yes, trying to gift the president with a $400 to $500 million, which, by the way, $400 million doesn't buy as much airplane as you think. I mean, it's probably used. You're gonna have to get some new avionics in it. You definitely
and
want to
it's
get.
Boeing, so there
Yeah, well, like I say, I have JD Vance flying it. Maybe you want to send it to Bernie Sanders. Say, Bernie, listen, hey, got this jet here. Maybe you want to try it a little bit. Go to one of your 3 vacation homes. Here you go. Have at it.
Here's my understanding also, because it said, they could use it as Air Force One, but Air Force One just is the name of whatever airplane that the president is in is Air Force One.
Is Air Force One. That is correct.
Yep. So if Trump gets on Spirit, that becomes Air Force One. So
right.
Yep.
And I mean, I don't know if you've ever been down to Dayton And really, why would you go to Dayton? I mean, without a
I've
court
been to Dayton. Yes, I have.
of your own free will, or you're not really in a position to
You
say
know,
that.
I've passed through that state on my
Everyone's
way
passed
to
through the state.
Pennsylvania or to get to Kentucky on my way to Florida.
Well, I'm just pointing out that at Dayton they have the Air Force Museum and they have the Columbine, which was Eisenhower's airplane. I
Okay.
think
Yeah, I've
I
skipped
want
the museum.
I want to say that Roosevelt's The Sacred Cow is there, but that might also be over in the Smithsonian. Speaking of sacred cows, Mark has joined us.
Yes, welcome back, Mark.
Welcome back, Mark. Happy to see you.
Moo. Moo.
Moo.
Well, we've
Bless
talked about the Pope and
you.
we've talked about the
Moo.
Qatar aircraft. So, would you like to weigh in on either of those
So
topics, Mr. Host?
Yeah, I read a great editorial in the New York Times today by David French, one of my favorite editorial writers. And he was saying the two most influential men on the planet are from the United States, one from New York and one from Chicago. First city and second city. Couldn't get more American than that.
Oh, yeah.
So, I guess you're speaking of the Pope, and then who would be the New York influential man?
Well, he's not
Trump.
talking any for
Trump.
Trumpsky.
Yes.
The Pope.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Agree to
The
disagree.
Bears. The Pope. Sending them some sausages.
I met some. What? All right.
Go, Mark. Come on.
No, every time I go to say something happens to my system, and I assume that I'm not being heard.
No, you
heard.
can be heard.
I can hear you.
Okay. Met some families from Chicago on the boat that I drive. They were in from St. Ignatius High School in Chicago, Illinois. It was kind of an interesting discussion about the Pope and everything, and they're hoping it saves Catholic schools, having a Pope who's an inner city Catholic, because that's where all the Catholic schools started, was in the inner city. So, and they do like all the memes though. Even though they're very serious Catholics, they do appreciate a lot of the memes.
Of course, Mark, when you went to Catholic schools, you could afford it with a part-time minimum wage job out of your own pocket. Nobody can afford the tuition for them anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
That was my parents paid. Well, when I was going from first grade through eighth grade, my mom was a teacher there, and it cost her $25 a year for my tuition. When I went to high school, she paid the first year for all of us and said, if you guys are going to go beyond that, you're going to have to pay your own. So I got a job as a caddy, and I paid my own tuition. By the time I was a senior, the Cardinal Mooney Society, or I can't remember what they called the men's club, but it was named after one of the saints. They had determined that there's no reason why I should have to pay my own tuition just because my family was so poor. So they paid my senior year at Our Lady of the Lakes out in Waterford.
Also, because you were class president, and it wouldn't look good to kick you out for lack of tuition.
Wow,
not very Christian.
So I thanked all the Catholics by converting to Protestantism when I married my Protestant wife. So
I'm
sure they all appreciate that.
Exactly there.
Okay.
Well, I mean,
we're not in Ireland, so it's not that big a deal, really. We worship the same Jesus.
Blasphemy.
I hope so.
Well,
the
Jesus,
Jesus,
we did go as far as
Jesus
Church.
was the least. Jesus was the least changing part of me going from Catholicism to Protestantism.
We got
the
special
Jesus part
dispensation, and the Catholic Church recognizes our marriage in a Presbyterian church. How about that?
Wow.
We had to have.
But I know
we had to have
the
a Catholic.
reason that you left and joined my church, Mark, was because I think you were in love with a girl,
Uh-huh.
a young
That was
woman.
it. That and I got tired of trying to answer all the questions I didn't have the answers to.
Big difference I discovered in our churches was, the sermons in the Presbyterian church usually focus on part of the Bible, and in the Catholic church, the if you call them sermons, in the Mass was why you should not leave after taking communion on Sundays. So I wasn't quite getting nourished spiritually when I would attend a Catholic service.
Well, tell you one thing, I talked about this in my Bible study the other day. One thing in my Catholic upbringing that I remember that I wish we still did in the Protestant church that I go to now is we had a priest who everybody thought was a hippie. Everybody parish had a hippie priest, wore the sandals, always wore the robes, or if he didn't have robes, he had T-shirts and a jeans and a T-shirt on, right? But every time we had communion with him, he took out this giant loaf of bread, and he would say, and after they ate, Jesus took the bread, he broke it, he gave it to his disciples. He says, "This is my body, which will be given up for you." And it was great because it was like, well, that's how I imagine it probably happened at the Last Supper, not this thing where you genuflect and pour the incense over the hosts and drip the. Any of you guys Catholics, that they drip the wine over the priest's fingers before it goes in the chalice?
Oh wow!
So that it's when you drink it, communion, you're drinking whatever the priest was touching.
One of the big controversies, a few hundred years ago, the Protestants didn't like that the Catholics said they were actually eating the body of Christ, and it's like, ew. And that was a big thing.
Jesus, huge. No. It is the actual body because he did say, "I am the bread of life."
Yeah, but Jesus was also a storyteller, and he knew how to use metaphors and things.
See, this is what a comedy podcast is all about.
Exactly. This is what we've gone from the horrible political discussions to now we're doing church on the airways. It's like, how far are we gone? How far are we strayed from our original purpose? I don't know.
I really miss Sam because we need him to weigh in from the Jewish perspective.
Yeah. Well, he could do good jokes about the Christians, Yeah. I just wanted to show you this Denny's out in Marshall. It's all tin. It's got a tin roof on it.
Yeah.
Okay. Pretty cool. It's not bad. This is, I guess, where the I was gonna try and hit the magic shop, but it's closed right now, so I can't really do anything. But I just thought I'd show you this. It's like a unique sort of diner, Denny's diner. So.
All right.
Well, my magic shop was closed by court order, but never mind that. Let's not go into
that. In Marshall?
Oh, yeah. You should move to Alabama. They'd love you out there,
Hello.
Well, yeah, what can you expect? A motto with Alabama where no one can hear you scream.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they can hear you scream because there's no road to go.
Oh, what's your muck say? I can't read it.
Denny.
Do they give free refills?
I guess, but this is what they got on the back of it.
And the Denny's in Ann Arbor is no more.
Snob.
Coffee snob. I'm not a coffee snob, but I like to be happy.
Oh, out here. Out here, every zip code has a Denny's. It's quite amazing.
Well, out here, nobody gets a Denny's. Right. I think I'm at one of the last three Denny's in Michigan.
What I have noticed is,
there's Marshalls. There's one.
I think there's one in Taylor.
Next to Battle Creek. There's one in Belleville, and there's one south on
Eureka Road.
Eureka Road. I think those are the last Denny's in Michigan.
Yep.
Well,
It's
sadly, the one
The
on
Belleville,
Washington is no more.
the Belleville, and the Eureka Road one in Taylor. Those are the only two Denny's in. That's the only two Denny's left in metropolitan Detroit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, come to LA. Think of the Denny.
But it's like, I love it. I love it.
I don't
Breakfast
recommend
food.
you travel
place.
2,000 miles for your coffee, though.
You know what? I remember Denny's used to be the Denny's in Big Boy.
But Denny's is the only place open after 2:00, so that's where all the comics went.
That's right.
And
Especially there's one right up there by near the Comedy Castle.
Remember the Denny's at 12 Mile?
That's also where the good Coke could be found after the gay bars
at
were
12 Mile
closed.
and Woodward. We used to go after the Comedy Castle all the time.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I tell you what, that Denny's at 12 Mile and Woodward, Marty McCauley held comedy court at the Denny's at 12 Mile.
Yes.
He was we all agreed Marty McCauley was the funniest man off stage in the comedy business. The funniest man. Marty McCauley was hilarious. Try to translate that to stage. Nothing.
Tim Slagle and Eric Tunney have a run-in with law enforcement one time out there? Was that at Denny's? You gotta get
at Denny's. They may have. Well, those
Tim Slagle on your podcast sometime.
I tell you
Mark,
what,
we can tell you the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Slagle is Slagle. He would get into trouble for things that he would say on stage. Tunney would get into trouble for things that he drank off stage. So.
But they wanted to know why a Canadian was with, Michiganders. Like the cops had issue with that. Like, can't you be friends with a Canadian? Oh, we've lost our host again.
Okay.
Oh dear.
No.
We gotta get him a travel rig.
I'll tell my favorite religious joke. You want to hear it?
Here, he's coming back.
I'll tell my favorite religious joke. You want to hear it?
Yes.
Okay. So the Jewish people don't recognize the Muslims, and the Muslims don't recognize the Jewish people, and the Baptists don't recognize each other at the liquor store.
Yes, if you take them more, how do you keep?
Well, I just got very busy here, so I'm gonna have to sign off.
Oh dear.
Okay.
Thank you for the poem. Have a good night. See you.
Thanks for your poems. Those are really good.
Hi, Dad.
Oh dear.
Hi. Hi.
This is Lillian.
Hi, Lillian.
She came home with
Miss
cookies,
you.
so I'm gonna have a cookie.
Did you work today?
Cookies.
Yeah. Cookies. She works for a bakery.
My daughter works for a bakery, so she comes home with cookies.
Well,
good night.
You can hit the Myers.
Fancy bakery.
Hit the Myers and get a Cinnabon. There you go.
Bye.
You can get Cinnabons at Myers now.
She likes the. Yeah, I said you got to work at a place where you can bring stuff home that Dad can eat. Because I can't eat.
Where does she work? Where does she get the cookies?
She works at a place called Crumble Cookies. Have you ever heard of it?
Oh yeah. I've been to that place. They are. They got one in Ann Arbor over on the west side.
Yeah,
it's
like
really
$5
expensive
cookies. But when you look at them, and I have tasted one just so I could say I tasted it, but they will kill me in my diabetes. I got to stay away from them.
Mm.
So I have tasted one. I haven't eaten a whole one, but they taste like they're going to kill me. So that's why I got to stay away from them. So. And there's one.
Do you feel like you're that De Niro scene where he's sweating to death? Says, "I just want some water, just a little water." It's like, no, you don't need it. You don't deserve any water. You don't get any water. Yeah.
The angel of death doesn't show up with a shroud. He shows up with a bunch of cookies and donuts and. Here you go. Would you like to come to the other side? Have the Krispy Kreme.
That's perfect. or or whatever else might tempt you. Maybe some lustful thing, maybe some sexually lustful things, maybe some material goods that you can't keep away from. That's how it works.
That's why I don't work at scout camp anymore. But let's not get
Everybody's
into
got their
that
week.
publicly. You know, I
Got
mean,
it.
we'll have to
Yeah.
move on from there.
So, Jason, have you
Okay.
lost a lot of weight? Jason, have you lost a
Sadly,
lot of weight? I see your
yes,
face is very
and
thin.
yes, and it's because and one of the other comedians did this joke, so unfortunately I can't do it. At my age, you start to lose weight. No one goes, "You look great." They go, "You're getting stage 4 cancer, or the chemo's working, or wow, I didn't know the AIDS was
Yes,
back." You
yes,
know, that's
yes. I hope,
that's
yeah. I hope your treatments end. I hope your treatments end soon.
yeah, exactly.
Yes.
I unfortunately and this happened again with the last head cold that I have. My sense of taste, which is I mean not artistic, but I mean I can't taste food anymore. I can
Oh,
smell it, but it's almost completely gone.
so
And
you
when you
got
can't
COVID then?
no, it was like after I had COVID a couple years ago, and that kind of got the ball rolling. But I had a summer hay fever, spring, that thing that you get in Michigan in the springtime when the air turns toxic and tries to kill you.
Yep.
And since that
I
time,
know,
I'm serious. I
know
nothing.
exactly what you're talking about, my
It
friend.
all tastes like straw now.
Oh,
And
wow.
as a result, I sometimes will go like 2 days without eating, not because I'm trying to do my, what would Karen Carpenter with a beard look like, but just,
Uh-huh.
just it's like I forget to eat because nothing tastes good.
Oh, I
And
could just kill you right now through the screen. How do you forget to eat anything? It's like,
I
so,
know. Hey,
how does
dude,
somebody do that?
You know what?
it wasn't.
If I have other things to do, I got down to 197 at Christmas time. When I have
That,
other things to do, sometimes you forget to eat.
you know what they call
Yeah.
197 in my family? They call it anorexia. I
Yeah.
mean,
All right, I'm back up. I'm back up. All right. I'm back up to 205. So everybody relax. I put
okay.
We're
7
Well,
okay. As long as
good.
you
Yeah.
pounds
you
back
can't
on.
be below the 200 level, okay? It's all
Everybody,
right. Yeah.
everybody relax. I'm putting it back on. But you know what happened is, I, I realized it, and I just thought about this last weekend. I will take and eat 2 cans of soup. Whereas before I had gotten used to, hey, this soup is very satisfying, and it's soup is a great food if you're trying to keep weight off because you can pretty much pick what you want in your soup. You go to the store and you say, oh, the fewer carbs in this, not enough fat, all this kind of stuff, and you kind of pick. Now, all the soups that are in cans at the store have about 8 times more salt than you actually need.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But salt isn't one of the things killing. The thing that's killing me is fat and carbohydrates. So, but
Yeah.
even
I
then,
love.
if you eat 2 cans of soup, then you've kind of defeated the purpose.
Well,
Yeah.
no,
So yeah, I gotta worry about the salt. Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, and I have a weakness for the Denny's #7 breakfast, but I eat it about once a month, and if I do eat it, then
Oh,
suddenly I'm retaining water like Lake Michigan. Yeah, I feel like Lake Michigan during the rainy season, and yeah, it's just oh my God, this is nightmarish, and
Let's
suddenly
see.
I look like some cross between I don't know the fat dude who can't get in your car in the Hindenburg. I mean, it's just like you guys remember the fat rapper from earlier in the year in Detroit who was suing Lyft because she weighs like 18,000 pounds, and some guy shows up in a very nice but lowered Mercedes Benz, and he's like, no, you're not, no, you're not getting in, and she
and he
makes
said, "You're not
Jabba
in
the
my
Hutt.
car."
Yeah, and she, yeah, and basically she needs to show up on like some sort of a padded flatbed, not
Yeah.
vehicle. I mean, she looks like a prop from a '50s horror film.
Yeah.
She looks like she could work as a cosplayer for a John Waters movie set. I mean, just uh, yeah, and of course
There
it
you
became
go.
a kerfuffle for 10 minutes of her claiming this was fat phobic. Or it's like, no, honey, ain't no one fat phobic here. It's just that you weigh a million goddamn pounds, and a lowered BMW is not the right mode of transportation for you. Perhaps some sort of a cattle hauler might be a little more appropriate, and maybe even a bit more hygienic. But
Yeah.
I'm
I'm always interested in, like, how do they get on planes? It's like, I don't know.
well,
I don't know anybody
they
flies
don't.
if they're that heavy.
Here's the answer. They don't. You don't deserve to fly. You should be put on some sort of a transport hauling device and sent to the lard rendering factory. I say this as someone who knows what it is to be 400 pounds. I mean, I know what it is to look in yourself and see the explosion of fat, and with two arms protruding out of the side, like I just like some sort of David Lynch nightmare out of Eraserhead Part 2, and I get it, I do, but at a certain point, as we mentioned with Groucho Marx, at a certain point, I take my cigar out of my mouth. I quit eating. I put the fork down. Go to the gym, where sweaty people are quite de rigueur. But. We've gone nuts. We've gone nuts. Stuff that we would normally shun or eschew, we now wish to celebrate. And I sound like I'm channeling my dad from the 1950s. Mark, I'm sure you're probably hearing your parents right now screaming from beyond the grave about how decadent the world has become. I mean, I don't get it anymore. But it is the way it is nowadays. I didn't mean to filibuster. I apologize.
My mom died from heart failure. Basically multiplied by her diabetes.
Yeah.
Which was from her obesity, COPD, from 60 years of smoking.
Yeah.
Both of them agreed they would have lived longer if they had been born in their children's generation because of the basically the systems or the people against bad health behavior.
Well, and sadly, it looks like I'm going to live longer than I had ever really dreamt of, because by now I was expecting to either be dead or serving the tail end of a life sentence, and yet here I am with I just did one of the running stress tests at the gym where they wire you up in a harness, and I mean it's a medical harness, not the one that I keep at my closet at home, and put you on this incline, and
right.
And they said, you have the heart of a 20-year-old. And I'm like, yeah, how did you know? I mean, but it's in a jar next to the bed. Okay, jokes aside. No, they're like, yo, it's amazing. You've got a great ticker here. And diabetes and heart disease killed my mom as well. And yet, I mean, my mother died at 52 years old. I've outlived her by 13 years. My father died at 65. I will be surpassing him this August. And sadly, I'm showing no signs of shuffling off this mortal coil. Although I'm sure we can hear Sam from beyond the grave saying, "Hey, don't worry, don't be in such a fucking hurry. Maybe you trade me back a couple of years, you ingrate son of a bitch. What the fuck is your problem?" I'm sitting next to Shelley Winters, and you know what? She's a pig. I mean, I was on Greenfield today in Royal Oak, and I couldn't stop but think about our dear departed friend.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
speaking of which, so Mark, do you know if they're going to have any kind of service out there for him?
I have not heard. I have not. I've sort of tried to gently make comments to Barbara, who I assume would have everything to do with it, as his bride. And as much as he bitched about her, he was her third wife, and really the only one he truly loved, and really the only one he should have married. I think the other marriages were,
well, heat of
whatever
passion?
they were. They just. What's that?
In the heat of passion?
I don't know why people
like
get married, but yeah, something like that. Hey, yeah, let's get married. We're having a great time. Why shouldn't we do this the rest of our lives? and then you get
Then you
and
sober
go,
up, or the effects of the drugs
oh,
take
we got to
off.
do this the rest of our.
But then look at you, same.
He
Oh, yeah.
I knew one of his brides before they got married. She worked at a club down in Indianapolis, and it was like, it's kind of interesting, but I didn't picture them together, and they didn't be stark raving mad, just a Looney Tunes. And so it worked out great because they didn't rush into anything. They were in this. All the other ones that he was married to were not comics. They kind of appreciated comics and loved comics, but Barbara's actually a comedian, and didn't nearly have the success that Sam. But in New York, Sam wasn't considered that successful either, just because he was in, where he was at. Out in the Midwest, he was a successful comic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was able to go out and make a living and do a very good living, and then turn it into a radio career, which allowed him to adopt that child that they loved dearly. And
Nice.
so I'm gonna miss. I do miss him. I mean, and
Yeah, I do too.
you don't think about this. This happened when my dad died and when my brother died. I go, oh, I can't wait till I tell my dad. Oh, I can't wait till I call Kevin. Oh, I can't wait till I talk to Sam.
Yeah.
Type of thing. And then you realize, oh shoot,
Right.
I gotta wait. It's not gonna happen.
And
it's not gonna happen.
And the fact that the end come was not totally unexpected, but it certainly wasn't foreseen. And even if it is foreseen,
I went back and watched that show Monday night, and within 48 hours he was unconscious, and they were rushing him to the emergency room. I mean, and he was feisty as ever.
Yeah,
had his comments and everything. Was talking about sports. Was talking about movies, stuff that he loves to talk about. Got a little bit angry with us. Apologized at the end,
Yeah,
and
that's Sam.
It was every Friday and every Sunday he called me. Sunday, I think, because it was the day before the show. Friday, because I think he just couldn't believe it wasn't Monday yet, type of thing.
Yeah.
And his wife told me that too.
His
wife said he loved doing our Monday night show. He loved it.
And if he had been able to recover, I would have loved to have had you and him just do like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday sort of podcast thing, just the two of you doing news of the world. It'd have been great, because Sam is Sam, and you certainly know what it is to have to sort of pitch to somebody and knock the ball back into play, and
here's the effect they had. My children really talked to Sam that much. They heard him on the show and stuff like that. They're often here and they can hear. And a couple of them said, "Was he the guy that talked really high? Did he have that high pitched voice?"
Yeah, that'd be Sam.
And I said, yeah, that's Sam. And a couple of the girls cried. Oh, they were very saddened.
Yeah, no,
because they knew him just from listening, overhearing the show in our house.
Well, when I of course learned because Mark, being the sensitive man that he is, informed me by text. Since Sam died, it's like, well, that's certainly don't sugarcoat it now. And the first thing I thought
that was the quickest thing. That was the quickest and most convenient way to get the news to as many people as I could.
And my first thought was what just do one of Sam's routines. It's like great, and a year from now when we're out there at his graveside going ta-da with his, when they're pulling the veil off his headstone. But a couple of days later, and it was graduation weekend. What do they call it? I don't know, but they do have a name for it. But I just know that weekend, it was graduation weekend. Andy, you know what that's like in Ann Arbor. It's busy. You don't have time to think. You're picking them up. You're dropping them off. You're making money because there ain't going to be no money tomorrow. So you got to make it today. And yet 2 days later, it's Sunday morning, and I'm out there working, and it's a beautiful, beautiful, gorgeous, radiant spring morning in Michigan. And it suddenly occurs to me, hold on, Sam's gone. I mean, you find that sort of moment of clarity sort of like sneaks up on you, and it's like, Christ, that's sad. It really, I mean, and I'm sure he would be offended that I mentioned Christ and his name in the same sentence, but still, yeah, especially because now for the last few days I look around and I notice, and Andy, you still do this. You've seen the changes, perhaps a little different to you because you're in Ann Arbor more than I am these days. But I don't recognize my town anymore. Every chance that we're putting up these 18-story tall trailer parks, these sort of architectural abominations that look like some sort of demented satanic AI architect designed.
Yeah.
And our pilot Ann Arbor, they're horrifying, Mark. Do you remember what Royal Oak looked like 30 years ago and what Royal Oak looks like now? I mean, you do. Yeah. I know this is your stomping grounds, your neck of the woods. Ann Arbor's worse. Right. It's because we sort of had that Royal Oak and Ann Arbor had that same sort of feel at a certain level, kind of a nice little downtown. We had the U of M, of course, but it was still kind of it was sort of a nice little place. It had kind of a niche. And now you look at it and go, what are we? What we're New Southfield? We're what? We're a bedroom community for the U of M. Anything that made us special or unique or fun. The hobby shop you went to as a kid, you were thrilled to go there on a Saturday with a couple bucks in your pocket because you're going to get the new Apollo model, or a wooden airplane, or the bookstore that you hung out in the 70s because there's this great book by Aleister Crowley, and you could turn tricks behind the corner. The head shop. I was wondering if you're going to catch that or not. It's all gone. The paint shop, the Enos and Sons, where you could go and get work boots and good work shoes and meet someone in the bathroom, and just it's all gone. And
that's the Pontiac, Michigan I grew up in, and that's gone too. So it's just that stuff.
Pontiac is scary.
I tell you what, here's how it was all the same. My what was the name of the place that we went to? There was a place in Pontiac, and it was his name, like Butch Wilson, something like that. Butch Wilson's Bootery. Every kid under the age of 12 wore shoes from this guy.
Yeah.
In that town, in Pontiac.
Yeah.
I grew up. There's a guy named Bill Lewis, does the same thing in Livonia where my wife grew up. Every kid wore shoes or footwear from that guy. And both of them put out of business by your Kmart, your Walmart, your Sears.
Exactly.
They just bought them all in China and put them on the shelf and for about 1/4 of the price,
Which, you can love or you can hate Trump, and I don't want to take this political, but the fact that the tariffs are sort of like putting a weed up the backside of some of these people who've been busy exporting everything we ever made or loved. And whether we're going to bring back the 50s and all that, I don't know. I don't have a clue. I mean, is it all going to end in tears and nuclear ashes? Probably. I hope so. Except for one thing. I've got a nephew and a niece that I dearly love. And I would kind of like to see them grow up in a world worth living in, and not just some monocultural corporate wasteland where everyone gets to, where it's some sort of bad version of Soylent Green meets Logan's Run, and we're all doing carousel at 27 or whatever. And no, it's just
carousel.
It's not a world that I wish to be a part of. And my wishes and desires are completely irrelevant. I'm fully aware of this. I my narcissism is not that profound yet. Give it time. We're getting there. But I don't know. I know this, that there are times at the track where I work through till the dawn, and I get to see the sun come up over there in a 9,000 acre, and it's actually really pretty, especially now because Venus is up in the morning. It's like, okay, I can deal with this. Then I come into Ann Arbor
Right.
and run a couple of runs. And after a couple of runs in Ann Arbor during the early morning traffic, I'm ready to push the button myself with a big target on my back saying, come on, bring it on. I want the big one. Send it my way. Do it now. Here, I'm putting on some sunscreen and drinking my last beer. It'll be a Molson, by the way. I'll drink a Canadian beer while I wait for the American warhead to strike me down.
You want the Molson Ale or the Molson beer?
After 33 years, I don't know that I'd know the difference. At this point,
the lager or the ale.
Does anyone remember Dollar Molson night at Second Chance back in the day? Back when Ann Arbor had
my God.
Yeah, I mean, it was it was a time. Or sneaking across the river to go to the Windsor Ballet. Certainly that's something you gentlemen never did. You never went to go see the tabletop ballet in Windsor. That was always so alluring. Well, certainly my friends enjoyed it more than I did, but
I had one occasion, and that occasion will go down in my memory, and it'll stay there and be shared with no one else.
Well, you have children, so you can't elaborate in perhaps the same
Although now that I think about it, everybody else that was there has now passed away. Maybe I can talk about it now. So.
Well, that's the other thing. When you start thinking that when you realize, hold on, all my friends, well, good news. I mean, I'm sad that they're dead, but they can't testify against me anymore. So there's that.
There you go.
I mean,
I'm free from them. Yes,
exactly. I mean, I want to say this about all you people who've been such an important part of my life. You were losers, all of you. I'm glad you're gone. Do that Don Rickles thing where he would set. He did this with Johnny Carson. John, I want to tell you, you're a wonderful, lovely man. You've done so much, and you know what, John? I don't like you. I never liked you. I never cared about you. And Carson would just fall apart. I mean, and only.
Oh, Rickles, I know. Well, because Rickles was a great performer in the way that he would say stuff like that, and he knew when he could only catch Carson's eye, and he'd have that twinkle in his eye that Carson caught. No one in the audience could see what was going on. You know what I mean? But because Carson was laughing at it, everybody went along with it. But Don Rickles was great at that sort of. It's a joke. You're in on the joke. I'm in on the joke. Play along. Play along.
Right. Exactly. Here's the bit. We both, and of course Johnny was the consummate best man ever to sort of like pitch the ball down the center, just the right speed. Let you take a nice big cut at it. And Rickles knew how to play along. Go ahead, Mark.
When he would list when Carson would list his influences. He mentioned Stan Laurel and Jack Benny.
Yes,
two of the best straight men. Everybody got the punchline, and they made him better. Their straight manitude made the punchline better.
Well, Jack Benny especially, he was a guy who knew how to just let something settle. He knew how to put those pauses in. The guy who did our.
I'm thinking.
I'm thinking.
Your money or your life. Yeah, that's right. Mr. Benny, what's in the violin case? Oh, it's a machine gun. Oh, thank God. For a second, I thought it would be the violin. There we go. The other day, I was talking about Mom's Mabley in the gym. And realizing that she's in terms of sexual appeal, she has me eclipsed, which says a lot. And at any rate, the young guys that I was talking to had never heard of her, and they listened, whatever. But I was as I walked out the gym, there were like 4 older African American gentlemen sitting there going, "Hey, come over here. You were the one talking about moms, right?" And these guys are all in their 70s and whatnot, and I had no idea they were right around the corner. They did. And I proceeded to do a couple of her routines and jokes, and they were just dying because and they they'd all heard this stuff before. Come on, sure. But it was great to hear it again, and that someone, and again it's not for me, it's not per se a race thing, although she did black humor. She did humor that came straight out of the minstrelsy. She did humor came out of the black clubs off the Chitlin circuit. I mean, and it's the funniest damn stuff ever.
If I may add at this point, this is, I think, one of the problems we have with what people think of race and what they think of racism. Because there are some of us in this country that are astounded that Trump is saying he's bringing white Afrikaners to the U.S. because they're being discriminated against for their race. That, to me, that just is. I mean, I don't. What is he? Is he saying that things in South Africa are bad, or does he want America to be known as a place for white people?
Well, South Africa just passed a law that allows them to confiscate farms without compensation. That's what they just did, and they had a big stadium where the president.
Lot of other countries. Yeah. Hello. Have you heard of China? Have you heard of North Korea? Come on, that happens a lot.
Have you heard of Zimbabwe, where they did the same thing, and they drove out the white farmers, and they went into a famine, Rhodesia, which used to feed Africa, and it's. I can't solve all the problems in the world, and I understand the controversy. Let's not forget also that Coleman Young went to the grave with a stack of Krugerrands. Remember the 80s when they busted him with a, I mean, there's lots of issues going on that are back and forth and whatnot. But just speaking towards an American, do you remember Dick Gregory when he first came onto the scene?
I want Donald Trump to marry an ugly black woman. That is the only thing that's going to save.
I don't think that's going to happen, Mark. I mean,
I want her to have a front butt. That's how ugly I want this black woman. I want her to have a front butt.
Well, to paraphrase an often quoted movie character, that's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how that works out. That's a. Do you remember Dick Gregory, what made him so revolutionary? Because before him, to black comedians to perform in a white audience, you had to have two guys up front. It was straight out of the minstrelsy, where they told their jokes to each other in a voice so that the audience could hear it, but they weren't directly talking to the audience. Dick Gregory broke that down. He talked straight to the audience, straight to white audiences.
The Jackie Robinson of comedy, right?
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. And out of that, he was also the guy who was changing stand-up comedy. At the same time, Shelley Berman was. At the same time, Lenny Bruce was. It wasn't the Borscht Belt sort of like the sort of nightclub, hit him with a million jokes. They'll like a couple of them. Henny Youngman sort of thing.
We mock that, but I mean, you talk to comics in my generation. We had a lot of respect for Henny Youngman. We had a lot of respect for Shecky Green. We had a lot, and we had a lot of respect for the Jackie Mason. I mean, those guys were great.
But we also love Richard Pryor, and we also love you don't have to.
There's a place.
It's a place for all of it.
There's a place for a lot.
But
place for a lot.
Exactly. But my point was that these people were changing comedy.
I like Jason Grant. Sue me.
Yeah, there you go. Careful, he's a dangerous man. And you know what dismays me is that the number of people, especially the young comedians, especially who don't understand that I'm doing a bit. They think it's all real or something. It's like, no, I don't really have a basement full of bodies. I have a crawl space in another house, not my basement. No, I'm not that dumb.
No, there's nobody that thinks that. Really?
You'd be amazed how many of them are like, I talk to them and they're like frightened. It's like, dude, relax. It's a joke. I'm just kidding. I'm not. I don't have an ether-soaked rag in my back pocket that I'm going to ask you to smell. I don't, I have an understanding of what I grew up in. I know what I look like, and I just bat into the trope, and then now and then I swerve out of it as well. I mean, if you want to see when I'm really being serious, it's seriously when I'm doing the rant, when I do get pissed, because You've heard it a million times, but we all knew what it was to have one guy or two, a man and a woman working, and able to at least afford a house and afford some kids and some clothes and a car or two, a vacation now and then. And geez, it wasn't so bad, really, was it? We had health care. People weren't insane. How bad was it? How awful was that?
Yeah.
You know? I mean,
are we ending the show?
I think we are.
We did another. What can I say? We did an hour, and we've completed our obligation to ourselves to complete an hour.
Yeah.
What my kids would call, we were talking some shit.
There you go.
And so we'll be back again next Monday night at 8 o'clock. I should be back in Michigan for that. This is a short trip this time, very focused. So as soon as I get off the air here, I will be going back to work at family business. So it's good to see everybody. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you, Mark.
Always a good time. Amen to the memory of Sam Greenfield, and we'll see everybody again next week.
Next week. You bet.